So, it starts pouring rain out of nowhere, and outside this little wooden shack there's a horde of zombies just gathered around. A guy is desperately banging on the door, begging to be let in. He's yelling that his name is Jang Hung, pleading for them to open up. Inside, everyone's hiding, scared, just listening to the screams. The thing is, his own friends are blocking the door, and one of them is like, "What are we supposed to do?" That's when a blonde girl just screams for them to let him in. She says Jang Hong is her boyfriend, and they can't just leave him out there like that. So, they have to open the door right now. But one of the other guys says that's insane cuz he's definitely been bitten by the zombies by now. The blonde girl shoots back that it doesn't matter. She's the class representative and she wouldn't abandon anyone, so she'll take full responsibility for whatever happens. She keeps insisting that leaving him out there screaming for help is basically the same as murdering him. That line, it really gets to one of the guys. He turns to the dude next to him, a guy named Ye, and says he's going to open the door and that Ye needs to slam it shut the second the guy gets inside. Before Ye can even say anything, the guy starts counting down. Everyone is super tense. On 3, he twists the door knob. But right then, Ye gets shoved through the doorway. Their friend had already turned into a zombie. Everyone inside is in total shock, and the protagonist, Ye, shouts, warning them that he's already infected, that this was a terrible idea. The blonde girl tries to run, pushing people back, and everyone starts screaming for help. Poor Ye throws his hand up to block a bite. Of course, his arm is in a shield, and he gets bitten. The pain is just absolute. But in that moment, something weird happens. Ye starts getting memories. On that day, he lost his arm. The creatures got in, all because of the blonde girl, and everyone tried to escape. Soon after, they found out the entire city had been swallowed by the apocalypse. A hooded man asks him if he's sure he knows what he's doing. The doctor watches him, and he knew he only had 2 things to do. With that, he pressed the door handle. The first was to save himself, and the second was to get revenge. And now he's back in the present. The moment right before the door was opened. After living a whole life in the apocalypse, missing an arm, he was back where it all started. Outside, Jung Hung is banging on the door asking to get in, and the blonde girl is once again telling everyone to open it, saying she's the representative and wouldn't abandon her classmates. Ye recognizes Lee Roxy and wonders why she looks so young all of a sudden. She asks if they're deaf and tells them to let Jan Hung in because if they don't, they'd be killing that guy. Yubei celebrates internally. Everything he'd planned had worked. He came back to change the world. He calls out the representative. He warns her that Jin Hung, the guy outside, might have been bitten. So, how exactly is she going to deal with the fallout? She says that since nobody saw him get bitten, there's no way to know for sure. And as the rep, she'll take responsibility for everything. Yubei just smiles and says, "All right." He takes her hand and tells her that if that's the case, she can open the door herself. Luri is stunned. The other girls can't believe he just told her to do it. The blonde girl yells at him, saying he's not a real man for asking a woman to do that, but he just says that for someone who wasn't risking anything. She sure was acting all high and mighty. He tells her that at the end of the day she's just a hypocrite. Roxy screams at him to shut up. She says she'll open the door because she was never afraid. She calls them a bunch of cowards and tells them to get out of the way. With that, she grabs the door knob, and the second she turns it, a fully transformed Jang Hong shoves everyone aside, and boom, everyone in the room is stunned all over again. The door crashes to the ground. Roxy slowly picks herself up, but she's immediately terrified. The infected Jang Hung is staring her right in the face. He lunges for her and the whole room scatters. In a total panic, she grabs the guy next to her, whining that she's scared, and then she shoves him forward, telling him to protect the representative. But out of nowhere, a foot comes flying in. It's Yi, and he just kicked her hard in the ribs, basically serving her up as bait for Jang Hang. Yi's got this little smile on his face as the zombie grabs her, going right for her head. But just then, someone with a screwdriver just obliterates the zombie's skull. The girl is covered in zombie guts, and Ye, he's just standing there with this dark grin. She stumbles outside tangled up with the dead zombie and looks back at Yubi, begging him to save her, but all he can think about is how she made his past life a living hell. He just picks the broken door up off the floor and starts barricading the entrance. She's screaming, "What are you doing?" As he seals her outside, he turns to the others and is like, "Why aren't you blocking the door?" The rest of them, totally freaked out, scramble to help. They start piling up furniture, boxes, anything they can find against the doorway. Outside, you can hear Roxy pounding on the wood, screaming about what they're doing as she's begging for help. They're barricading her out. She's yelling that she's the class rep and they can't do this to her. The other girls are too scared to move while the guys keep building the wall. And Yi, he's just standing there watching it all down. After a while, the rain finally stops and they realize they can't hear Rocky's voice anymore. Now, everyone is looking at Yi and they're terrified. They all remembered him as this super nice, quiet kid. So, why has he suddenly turned into this? Yubai looks around at them. The girls are all crying and shaking. He asks, "Why does everyone look so scared of me?" They all nervously deny it. Then, the blonde guy from before actually thanks him, saying Rocky would have gotten him killed. And suddenly everyone's on Yi's side, saying that girl was messed up and was totally fine with sacrificing someone else to save her own skin. Yi cracks a smile. "Since you're all so brave now," he says, "how about we open the door? I want to check something outside." They're all like, "Why would you want to go out there?" He tells him he feels bad about kicking her and wants to see if she's okay. His friends argue back, saying it's side with all the zombies out there, but Yebi just yells them to get out of the way. Freaked out, they start moving all the junk they'd piled up. They crack the door open and he slowly steps out onto the grass. He looks around and announces that it looks like both the rep and Jong Hung are gone. The sun's up and weirdly, the zombies are gone. And at that exact moment, the group slams the door shut on him. From inside, they start yelling that they're not letting a crazy murderer back in, that he would kill everyone. Yai, however, didn't seem to care at all. He just keeps walking across the field while everyone watching thinks he's completely lost it. That's when the blonde guy gasps. There's a female zombie standing right in front of Yai, and he's just casually walking toward her. The creature notices him, but he calmly keeps approaching. He smiles and grips the tool. In the next moment, he rushes at her, and everyone is left wondering, why is he charging at the zombie? The poor creature didn't even understand what was happening when she took a blow to the head. And boy, he didn't stop. He smashed her right into the ground, and that was that. The group inside was now certain that Guy had gone insane. Our protagonist, though, was pretty exhausted for someone who had just done all that. He went over to the creature's remains and pulled out a pearl. He smiled and said he had found an energy stone that wasn't just the origin of the apocalypse, but also an extremely necessary material. At that moment, even a footstep behind him, he turned and faced an old zombie. The monster was coming at him slowly. He grabbed the tool again, ran toward it, and everyone inside saw him finish off another one. The girl was nearly vomiting, while the blonde boy wanted to know why he had gone so crazy. As far as he could remember, the kid had been a coward, so how had he changed so much? Everyone began thinking about how terrifying he was and believed he was pretending to be someone else. One of the boys said it was a good idea to let him back in since he was really strong and could help kill the zombies, but the others didn't want to support that because he was a lunatic and could end up killing everyone. Suddenly, the window shattered. Yai asked if his classmates were still in there. He told them to come outside and kill zombies because it was a lot of fun. The poor souls were all trembling. At that moment, they warned him something was behind him. A zombie had appeared and leaped at him, but Yi just looked, stretched out his foot, and kicked it in the chest. Once again, he grabbed the tool and struck it in the jaw. As he finished off the creature, the group watched, terrified from behind. Another one fell dead to the ground. Our boy wiped his face while everyone else was too stunned to say anything. He noticed he was being watched and commented that he didn't know if this liquid was going to infect him. He said he wanted to travel with his friends, but it was too risky since he didn't want to hurt them. With that, he left, saying he hoped they would all survive. His friends wondered if he was really going to leave just like that. And with that, they were all left behind in that room. Our boy walked alone across the campus. He climbed the stairs while thinking that this was the beginning of the apocalypse. On the first day, 50% of the population had been infected, and politics, the economy, and society had collapsed. The number of creatures kept increasing along with humanity's fear and despair. Professor Zenhan named this period the Dark Era. In his past life, he had to tear off his own arm to survive that day. For 15 years, he endured hunger, despair, and torture until he finally met a man known as the Mechanic, who was able to send him back to the past. Calmly, he walked through the streets. Some people watched him from hiding, wondering if he wasn't afraid of dying. Others suggested inviting him inside, but they said that if he was walking alone, he must be dangerous. Yubai ignored everything and walked near a park. The zombies were there standing still, seemingly ignoring him. But as soon as he turned his back, those bastards came after him. The blonde boy shouted that the kid was going to die, and the old man said it was crazy to go out looking for food in a world like this. However, Yai just smiled, grabbed his tool again, and struck the first one in the head. One more swing, and another zombie fell to the ground. A hard slam into the ground, and the guys watching wondered where all that courage came from. But someone else was watching him from behind a curtain. A girl muttered that sooner or later she would kill that bastard. "Man, what's that about? Our boy is killing zombies. Why are you mad, girl?" After finishing off 3 creatures, our boy was exhausted, but then he heard something else. A flock of birds coming from behind. 3 more zombies were approaching. He quickly realized he couldn't handle all of them. The zombies slithered towards him and he ran off. he knew the previous noises had attracted a horde to that place. From inside another house, a spunk watched, saying that kid was running straight toward them. That's when Yi noticed a convenience store next to him. He started banging on the door, asking to be let in. He looked at the camera and said he needed help because he was being chased by a horde of zombies. The old man on the other side said it was ridiculous and no one would ever open the door for a kid like that. But suddenly the gate began to rise. At the same moment, a zombie turned the corner. It leaped toward him and Ye hit it in the head again. But an old woman was coming down the avenue and he struck her in the face with the tool as well. He dove under the gate and rolled inside. The zombies started pounding on the door, but finally he was safe for a while. And man, what he found was a loaded base. From behind a computer desk, a little girl was watching him. Meanwhile, at the nightclub next door, Spank was watching and saying that it looked like that kid was killing everything. The guy of the mohawk turned and told Brother Centipede that a student had killed about 6 zombies on his own. The least glitch guy in the apocalypse laughed. As always, surrounded by women, he said it seemed like those zombies were weaker than he thought. If a student could manage it, it obviously wouldn't be hard for them. Back at the convenience store, Yubai smiled. He looked at the counter and told the person behind it to come out because he had already seen her. Besides, she should hand over the key so he could lock the door, but the person on the other side remained silent. He let out a sigh and started groaning, saying that his wound hurt a lot and he was about to die. Suddenly, the girl came out from behind the counter. She stepped in front of him and tossed him some medicine, but man, he's cruel. He grabbed her by the arm. For God's sake, don't turn this into a romance. She looks like someone's daughter. Ye told her to hand over the control, assuring her he wouldn't do anything. She asked what control he was talking about, but she clearly had it in her hand. He reached for it and snatched it from her grip. Immediately, she ran off in a panic. She came behind the counter and kept watching him. Man, he kicked one of the shelves, startling the girl. He said she was an idiot for believing him when he said he was injured. Some time passed and it started raining. Our boy was lying on the bed, exhausted. The same little girl was tending to his amputated arm. Obviously, Yibi was in excruciating pain. After a while, she said she was done and our boy thanked her for saving him. She opened the first aid kit and said that it was really dangerous outside and her father had told her to stay here. He could rest there and later she would bring him some food. With that, she left the room while he thought she was way too kind. She was the only person out of all the doors he knocked on who let him in. If it weren't for her, he would have been eaten by those zombies outside. But after a while, he heard her asking what some guys were doing. That immediately woke Yi up. Some people were standing in front of the store, and the so-called centipede thanked her for opening the door for his friends. Frightened, the little girl asked if they just wanted some food because they were hungry. He said that's exactly what they wanted, and now all the food in that place belonged to him. She told them her father would be back soon, but the guy said her father had already been used as bait for the zombies, and now that no one was there, they could start playing a game. I stood in the corner listening as they took the girl's life. After stealing the food, they dumped her body on the floor, calling her an idiot. But now back in the present, he knew this time he had to save her. First, he had to make sure she understood how cruel this apocalyptic world was, even if that meant she would see him as a bad person. She then knocked on the door, and it seemed like he was going to take the role seriously because he immediately shouted, asking why she was bothering him. She apologized, saying she had washed his clothes because they were too dirty. He got even angrier when he saw how kind she was. He told her to throw those clothes away and get out of there. A bit embarrassed, she said that was fine. He then told himself that with such a weak personality, it would be hard for her to survive in a world like this. However, taking a hot shower like this was amazing since in the future all the water would be contaminated. He finished his bath knowing that luckily this convenience store had plenty of food and water. The goal now was to obtain some equipment and weapons. Looking in the mirror, he remarked that being younger was really amazing. No back pain, no burning legs, and being young was truly incredible. The only downside was that even his abs had disappeared. He opened the bedroom door and saw that she had left a suit for him. Immediately, he shouted, asking how he was supposed to fight zombies wearing something like that. The scene shifted to the nightclub. Centipede told everyone to listen up. That convenience store definitely had food and liquor, but it wouldn't last long. The plan was to get out, kill the zombies in front, and steal everything from that place. Not to mention that Maniac knew there was a cute little girl there, so it would be easy to finish everything off. He then told his brothers to go and kill the zombies so they could start the robbery. The creatures continued banging at the front of the convenience store. Meanwhile, Abi approached and called the girl's attention. He told her to stop being so stupid and said he had a question. He wanted to know why she was there alone and what happened to her family. She explained that her father had gone to gather resources but hadn't returned. At that moment, he slammed the table asking if she was stupid for letting him in alone like that. What if he had wanted to do something bad to her? How would she defend herself? Frightened, the girl said that he had said he was hurt and covered in blood, so she was afraid of letting him die out there. But once again, he shouted, asking if she had noticed that he's being chased by a bunch of creatures. With a personality like that, she would just be a burden, so it would be easier for him to kill her and save himself the trouble. However, since it would be boring to be alone from now on, she would have to obey him. He warned her that she would have to do everything he said or he would kill her on the spot. The group from the nightclub was heading toward the zombies, or rather the zombies were heading toward them. They went out with courage. But after seeing the first one get devoured, they all hesitated. They began questioning whether these creatures were different from the ones the student had killed. But Centipede told them to charge ahead or he would kill the whole group himself. However, one of them ran off, saying that dying to the zombies was scarier. Centipede then grabbed him by the hair, threw him toward the zombies, and said his wish had been granted. The fool asked how he could do such a thing. While he was being devoured, the rest of the group was finishing off the creatures. The problem was that Centipede soon realized there were too many, and they would have to flee. The peace had been disturbed by the horde following them. Meanwhile, the convenience store had become peaceful. A little girl climbed the stairs and brought some ramen to our boy, saying she had made it for him. She also brought the hot water he had asked for. But he told her to get out of there because she had done enough. He warned her that unless he called for her, she better not come into that room. With that, she closed the door and he prepared the noodles. He started eating immediately because he was starving. As soon as he tasted it, he got excited and smiled, saying it was really good. However, our boy grabbed the bottle of hot water. He started approaching and Centipede asked what he was doing. Our guy took off the cap and poured it on him. Man, his hand turned red and blistered immediately. Centipede was in agony, but couldn't let go of the hand or he would fall through the zombies. He told him he was an idiot for asking for help while threatening to kill someone. But at that moment, someone tugged at his sleeve. When he looked back, it was the little girl telling him to stop. She warned him that it would be better to let that guy in and stop hurting him. That surprised both the protagonist and Yi. He immediately turned to the girl and told her to get out of there because he hadn't called for her, but she kept insisting, saying that her father had told her not to hurt others. He stood silent for a second. Then he asked if she wasn't afraid of that guy coming into the house and killing her. Centipede, however, said he would never do something like that. He was just starving and ended up in this situation because he was surrounded by zombies. The outside was already full of creatures, so unfortunately he couldn't leave anymore. He was angry that the girl had interrupted his plan to kick the guy in the head and let the zombies eat him. Then he noticed the box cutter on the table. Centipede came in thanking her for her kindness, but he warned that now that he was inside. This was his territory. Anyone who refused to obey would have to die. Now the girl realized she had made a mistake. The sky was dark and there were zombies everywhere. A bald man and a boy were blocking the door. It was the remaining people from the nightclub, and the bald man said it was that bastard Centipede's fault for dragging everyone into this. The girls were all screaming in panic and they didn't know what to do because now that bastard must be dead. The worst part was that the wooden door was about to be destroyed by the creatures outside. The bald man couldn't see a way to keep the place standing. He called out the girls, telling them to come help block the door. But as he looked them, he thought to himself that he would have liked to enjoy them more, but unfortunately that wasn't going to happen. The only way to survive was to run away and let them die. Back at the convenience store, Centipede stood in front of Yebi smiling and told the girl that she was cute, but too naive to think he wouldn't kill anyone. However, now that he was inside, he would give her the chance to surrender and become his slave. Then he looked to the side and said he had to deal with the bastard who poured hot water on his hand first. Out of revenge, he made sure the boy would suffer as much as possible. But he stood silently, holding the box cutter in his hand. The little girl insisted, saying that her family owned that convenience store. She added that downstairs there was chocolate, plenty of snacks, and enough food for everyone there. The two stood in silence for a second. The girl smiled, saying everyone could eat together and live peacefully and happily. Centipede lost his temper, lunging at her, asking if she was making fun of him, but the box cutter came in. In half a second, he slashed at the guy's hand. Centipede screamed in agony, but Yebi spun the box cutter, ripping it in a reverse hold. Centipede blocked his move. Our boy was aiming for his throat, but it was undeniable that the guy was much bigger and landed a kick to Yu's stomach. Our boy was thrown back and the girl fell to the ground with him bleeding. He walked across the room toward him. He mourned that it was the first time in his life that someone had made him this mad. Ye couldn't believe that with one kick, the guy had broken some of his ribs. At that moment, Centipede started stomping on his leg. Our boy was in agony. Centipede wanted to know how he had killed a zombie so easily earlier. He said he wouldn't tell, and the guy replied that he was asking for death. He began stomping on him, saying eventually he would change his mind. The little girl was just watching. Yu was using this as an opportunity to teach her a lesson, but the price was already too high. He then told the guy to stop, saying he would tell him. Centipede told him to explain quickly, promising he would cause the least amount of pain when he but Yebi spat blood in his face. Of course, this did make the guy happy. He threw Ye against the wall and kicked him in the stomach again. Centipede asked if he thought this was fun and started stomping on him again. Man, he told Ye to die and hit him in the jaw. I think our boy's attempt to teach a lesson is going a bit too far, but that's when the shift finally came. The little girl whipped him across the neck. Centipede turned, asking what she thought she was doing. He shunned her hard, throwing her to the ground and grabbed the box cutter. He screamed in a rage, saying they were both going to die, but time was up and he landed a blow to the back of his neck with a stick. With that, Centipede passed out on the floor. Our boy was exhausted and could barely stand. The frightened little girl asked if he had died. Seeing the pool of strawberry juice, she wondered if she had really killed someone. He then placed a hand on her shoulder. He told her it was okay because she had done what was necessary. Besides, that bastard was an evil man. Confused, she asked why he had acted that way when all she had done was try to help him. But that's when Yi told her that bastard wasn't dead. She seemed excited and said that if that was the case, she should save him. But our boy threw her aside. He tossed her out of the room and said he had never met anyone as stupid as her. He slammed the door, muttering that this girl really made him mad. Not to mention that bastard had now dirtied his whole room. He grabbed Centipede by the leg and dragged his body toward the window. Then, with a swift kick, he sent him flying to the zombies. Man, he fell to the ground like a piece of trash. And for the zombies, it was a feast and they all gathered. That's when the poor guy opened his eyes just in time to realize he had become a meal. Ye muttered outside that Centipede was lucky he hadn't cut off his limbs first. That's when he heard another sound nearby. In the house directly in front of him, a guy was hanging, trying to escape the zombies. The kid was about to fall, trembling and shouting for them to leave him alone. Then someone called out to him. It was Yai asking if anyone else was still alive in that place. The guy said that unfortunately he was the last one. They had held the door until one of the guys let go. And then the zombies came in and ate everyone. With a trembling voice, he begged Yu-Bai to help him so he could stay in the convenience store. But our boy told him that wasn't going to happen, and if he didn't get out of there soon, he would end up like that guy on the ground. The boy looked down and saw Centipede being eaten. Disgusted, he turned, gathered his courage, and jumped to the next ledge. The kid was a Parker Keen managing to balance on the railing. He ran across it and our boy was just watching. He was disappointed that those damn zombies hadn't managed to kill everyone from the nightclub. Time passed, but the zombies still lingered outside that place. The window was broken and our boy opened the bedroom door. Outside, the little girl was still waiting. He asked her what she was doing there and if he hadn't told her to go take a bath. However, she looked inside the room and saw that the body had already been dragged away. He told her not to look too much, but the guy had already gone to the first floor. The girl asked if he had escaped. He replied that in the way he had thrown the guy outside, only a god could survive. She looked a bit sad and asked why he had to kill the guy like that. Even if he was a bad person, he still had a chance to turn him around, but Yu-Bai slammed the door above her. He asked if she was so stupid that she hadn't learned a lesson after everything that happened. No matter what she did, that guy was going to try to kill her because that's how the apocalypse was. The girl repeated the word apocalypse, saying he didn't know what he was talking about. But Yu-Bai just walked away, saying it was stupid to waste time with her there, so he was going to take another shower. But she got up and said she wanted to talk to him. She tripped like an idiot and seemed to faint. Luckily, Yu-Bai managed to catch her. He ran to the room and put her on the bed, wondering if she had been bitten. He didn't see any wounds, so maybe it was just a fever. He remembered there should be some medicine in that room. Now, it made sense why she seemed so weak from the moment he first met her. Finally, he found the box, but when he opened it, on top of the medicine was a pink notebook. He started flipping through it and realized it was a list of blood donors. Analyzing the girl's condition and what was written there, he started to understand. It seemed like a kind of medical notebook. He wondered what she had and kept flipping through it. Her name was Yoyer and she was 14 years old. On top of that, she had leukemia. He lifted her shirt and began to understand why she had so many band-aids on her body. Perhaps because she had received donations, she always wanted to help people too. But unfortunately, that kindness she wanted to show to the world no longer existed. That's when he reached into his pocket and saw that he still had the apocalypse essences. He didn't know how effective they would be for this particular illness, but Meg was falling. Outside, the area was still full of creatures. Fortunately, the night was calm, and after some time, the sun began to rise. The zombies were all stammering and still, but for Sun caught their attention. Sometime later, he woke up. He had fallen asleep on the table and was freezing, but he soon noticed he was being watched. When he looked back, he saw Yair standing behind the door. He found it strange that she was already up and asked if she was feeling better. She didn't answer for a second. Before she could say anything, he told her to go ahead and prepare some coffee. As she left, he told her to wait a second. He told her to gather some tools and food because they were going to head out to look for her father. Yair seemed a bit confused and asked if they were really going to do that. Yubai replied that yes, they were, especially since she said her father had gone out to get supplies, so they couldn't leave him out there. This annoying girl only complained, saying her father told her to be a good girl, stay in the store, and not go out looking for him. The protagonist then asked how long her father had been gone. She lowered her head and said at least 3 days. He then asked how long it usually took. She replied that it was normally half a day. He then told her to use her brain and ask herself why he hadn't come back yet, but she yelled, saying that nothing had happened because 3 days ago, he shouted that he was already on his way back. However, our boy was cruel and asked if she had received any other messages in the past 3 days. He could have been bitten by zombies or fallen into a trap and might be waiting for rescue. Shouldn't they be out there trying to save the guy? But she lowered her head again and said her father told her not to leave no matter what happened. Our boy got up angry and said she was an idiot. He asked why she wasn't willing to help her father who might be in need of assistance. Why was she so eager to help that criminal earlier but didn't want to go out and save her father now? And he told her to understand that he wasn't asking for her opinion. He could finish her off right there and go out by himself. But because she saved him, he would first find her father's payment. He ordered her to stop whining and gather her things because they were going out. The poor girl ran off in a panic and almost fell down the stairs. He was getting exhausted from these conversations. Outside, the sea was destroyed and the zombies were still staring at the sky until suddenly they heard a sound from behind. A jeep was coming down the street. Men, these crazy zombies think they can stop him with their arms.
Yeah, right?
Grab them by the chest. Everyone goes flying to the sides, knocked out. Meanwhile, back at the convenience store, our protagonist was stocking up on food and preparing to leave. He looked behind him and asked why she was hiding and if she had finished packing everything, looking a bit downcast. She seemed all cute but sad. Our boy asked why she was wearing that kind of outfit, as they weren't going to a party. But he quickly changed the subject, asking where the instant noodles he had asked for were. She handed it over and he started eating. While she looked around the store, he began planning what they were going to do once they opened the door. At the very least, he would have to kill a bunch of zombies and find a working car. Then, he would have to make sure she got into the car without doing anything stupid, which would be pretty difficult. He noticed she was eating some spicy sticks and asked for one. The girl was feeling sad from being scolded all the time. However, someone was approaching the store just as she was handing him the snack. They were standing there when in the next second everything was thrown around. The place had turned into a mess, and Yi asked if it had been an earthquake, but a car had crashed halfway into the store. The protagonist was startled, wondering why something had invaded the store. The car was sitting there, and suddenly the door opened. A man in military gear got out and started laughing. A bald, chubby guy said he was lucky to find a convenience store. He kicked at a zombie and stomped on it, saying that a good zombie was a dead zombie. He headed toward the store, saying it was time to fill his belly. As soon as he walked in and saw a bunch of snacks, his eyes lit up. He immediately crouched down, licking his lips, saying he had found his favorites. The city center was empty, so he came out to this deserted area and apparently got lucky. But that's when the box cutter appeared. He warned him to drop everything he was holding and not to move. The last insect that had come in had already been disposed of, and he wouldn't hesitate with another. But in that moment, the chubby guy moved and threw snacks at his face. He closed his eyes for a second, and the guy grabbed the stash and bolted. He ran back to the car and slammed the door shut. But man, Yubi showed up at the window and wasn't going to let him escape that easily. He called the guy a filthy pig and told him to die. Just as the box cutter was about to do its work, the guy begged for forgiveness, saying he surrendered. But of course, that's when Yu told him to stop killing people. She awkwardly said that and saw both of them staring at her. She awkwardly explained that she didn't want him to die because he caused damage to the store, so someone had to pay for it. I just observed while the chubby guy trembled. He made a sinister grin and said she was right. He turned to the chubby guy and told him he would have to leave the car's payment for the damage to the store. He immediately told Yoyu to bring her bags and load up the car because they were leaving. She agreed, but then noticed something. The chubby guy apologized, saying he only destroyed the door because he was starving and didn't know they were inside. Then Yoyu stepped outside with her bags and was startled. There was a horde of zombies approaching because of the crash. The chubby guy was scared, wondering why there were so many, especially since he had just killed a bunch. Yoyu quickly jumped into the car. He closed the door and the chubby guy told him to buckle up. He immediately floored it because several zombies had lashed onto the car. He gripped the seat as the truck ran over everything, and the chubby guy hit the gas hard. Man, he was tearing through the city, but the bastard seemed to be enjoying it. He was even drifting like he thought he was in Fast and Furious. I told him to drive properly, or he was going to get a nice slash to the neck. The chubby guy tried to explain that they needed to kill the zombies first or they wouldn't be able to get through. But that's when our boy asked Yoyu what address her father had gone to for supplies. She said that in his last call, he was heading to the Feng supermarket. The chubby guy said that place was crazy since it was always packed and must be crawling with zombies. But Yubi told him to stop whining and just drive or he'd be the one to die there. They seemed to escape the horde and the chubby guy said, if things got boring, you could turn on some music. At least on the road, they could calm down a little. The zombie lying on the ground with a branch in its hand grazed its arm. As the car approached man, the chubby guy had no mercy and ran right over it. As he sang along to some music and ate candy, he plowed through everyone. Clearly, this bastard was enjoying the whole process, and Yubai told him to be quieter because he wanted to rest a bit, but the chubby guy said not to worry as the car was very tough, so there was no problem. Yubai, however, raised the box cutter and asked if he wasn't going to listen. At that moment, everything went silent and he stopped the car. Our protagonist told him that he didn't order him to stop the car just to stop making noise. That's when the chubby guy realized the gas had run out. Yo, and our boy screamed in frustration. He cursed the bastard who apologized, saying he forgot there wasn't a gas station nearby. He started eating frantically, saying that if he was going to die, he might as well die with a full stomach. Yo, on the other hand, began to hear some noises approaching. A huge zombie appeared right in front of her window. The car had stopped right in front of a park, and a horde of zombies was starting to surround them. The protagonist knew that even if the car wasn't destroyed, they were going to die trapped in there. But that's when a knife behind his seat caught his attention. The zombies were banging on the window. Suddenly, someone kicked the door, sending it flying off. Yabai calmly stepped out, and the zombie came toward him. He pulled out the mask sheet and slashed through another one. Inside, Yoyer was terrified, watching everything. But our boy was celebrating, saying the blade was sharp. Another zombie approached, and he remarked that for amateurs like these, this kind of weapon was more than enough. He landed another strike and two more approached. He glanced to the side, kicked one in the chest, and finished off the other. The chubby guy inside the car was stunned watching everything. Another large zombie fell to the ground. He couldn't believe that this student was so strong. Even Yoyer was impressed. Yabai banged the handle of the knife on the car and told the chubby guy to get out. The chubby guy was terrified, but our boy warned him that if he stayed inside, he'd die sooner or later. Anyway, there were other cars outside, so maybe they'd be lucky enough to find some gasoline in one of them. While he dealt with the zombies, the chubby guy was supposed to start collecting some gas. He reminded him that he had been singing the whole trip, so he'd better know how to handle a vehicle. Yubei told Yoya to stay in the car and not leave as it was too dangerous. Yubai then told the chubby guy to come with him. The chubby guy, still not mentally prepared, said they needed more time. But in the next second, Yubai had already killed the first zombie. The poor chubby guy couldn't believe that this boy had no fear at all. Yubai moved on, slashing through another one. He looked back and told the guy to hurry up, but then the chubby guy remembered there were some gasoline canisters in the truck bed. He realized how useful Yubai was and wanted to make better use of him. Yubai killed another zombie. He looked back and asked what the guy had said. Embarrassed, the chubby guy said he had been in shock and forgot. But if they waited a little, he filled the tank. Yubai told him to wait and do that later. The chubby guy was confused. Our boy said he needed help collecting something. He opened his hand, revealing a green pearl. He explained that they were found in the brains of zombies, and while he killed them, the chubby guy was supposed to collect them. The poor guy, who had never done anything like that before, started sweating, but Yabai said it was easy and showed him how to do it. He quickly demonstrated the process and asked if the chubby guy understood. Obviously, the guy said it was too disgusting and he'd rather stay in the vehicle. Yabai warned him that if he went back to the vehicle, he'd end up as ground meat. The chubby guy then asked how he was supposed to do it without a knife. Our boy told him to use his hands, saying he was going in, and if the guy didn't help, he'd be killed too. With that, Yu-bai took a step forward and finished off another zombie. The chubby guy, disgusted, approached the first zombie. He ran back to the jeep, grabbed a tool, and prayed for protection. The protagonist said they didn't have time to waste and told him to start collecting right away. But the chubby guy, hesitant, wondered if the zombie was still alive. He struck it and went to collect the Purel, impressed that it was actually easier than he thought. There really was a little crystal inside. He never imagined that the human head produced something like that. He then asked Yabai if those were worth a lot, but Yabai told him to shut up. The chubby guy began to think that maybe this was why humans had turned into zombies and wondered if he should keep a few. Meanwhile, Yabai was finishing off another batch. After a while, he said that was enough and they wouldn't bother with the ones farther away. He thought to himself that getting used to this body without training was quite difficult. He turned and asked the chubby guy how many he had collected. The chubby guy was proud, saying he had gotten several. He said it was fun, and Ye told him to clean them and store them. Then it was time to fill the tank so they could get moving. He then went to check on Yao. However, her illness seemed to have worsened again. He was startled and grabbed her arm, calling her name. He placed a hand on her forehead and realized the fever was worse than before. He began rummaging through her bag, remembering that they had grabbed some medicine and water. The chubby guy appeared and asked what was wrong with her, but Yubai told him to shut up and fill the gas tank. After some time, she seemed to have stabilized a bit. The chubby guy suggested that maybe it was because she had stayed in the heat of the car for too long and asked if she was feeling better. Yabai, not in the mood for chit-chat, threatened him again. He said they had lost time because the chubby guy pretended they had no gas, and if he hit anything else, the next person to die would be him. The chubby guy immediately apologized, saying he would never hide anything again. Yaoi seemed to wake up, and the car continued down the road. After a while, the chubby guy complimented our boy's swordsmanship and asked what his name was. Our protagonist replied that it was polite to give your own name before asking someone else's. The chubby guy said his name was Jiao Hang, and he owned a workshop in the city. His friend had left this truck at the shop for repairs and never came back to pick it up because of the apocalypse. Then our boy said his name was Yubai, but suddenly Jiao Hang slammed on the brakes and our boy had to hold on as he drifted on the road. The protagonist immediately threatened him, asking why he did that. Xiao Hang explained that the entire road ahead was blocked by burning vehicles. The problem was that Yaoi was still trembling. At least now she had stood up. When she looked out the window, Yabai said it didn't seem like they would be able to get to the side where her father was. Yaoi just watched silently with nothing much to say.